Earlier I made a video about the 250th anniversary of the United States and how 250 represents judgment in the Bible, and 250 is the average lifespan of an empire. Something that Devin pointed out to me earlier, though, which I never thought of, is that on the American flag there's 250 points. 50 stars. Stars are 5-pointed stars. 250 points. Is that a coincidence? And remember that 5-pointed star is basically a pentagram. And the United States was born out of rebellion. Is this a foreshadowing that after 250 years, God will pour out judgment on the United States? I don't know. Let's see. And also, remember that the judgment that would come would ultimately be because of the rebellion of the United States. Rebellion towards God. Because of its pride, its arrogance.
First and foremost, before we get started, I'd like to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rekah Quadash, and double honors to those great millstone, while lunch is truth, and also to the hopeful elect that is scattered abroad. I like to say, Shalom. Come back here today with another great and powerful lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And the type of day lesson is news and prophecy, end time events. Hope to sweep you today and guide you back in the path of righteousness and back to your true power, which in fact is Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. So we're going to jump right into it. Let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7 and verse 8. It said, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. So it is better the end of a thing, better the end of an age. So we seen in the opening video about the guy was saying about America, has reached 250 years, and also it said mark judgment from the Lord. So we already, a lot of men of the Lord been going over this topic about, about this 250 years, also the 4th of July, things that's been transpiring across the world, all these end time events. We constantly been hearing all sorts of tension is rising in the Middle East. Also, we know right now that we're at the end of this thing, the end of an age. So we're in a transition of power, the birth pain. And also, I noticed this 4th of July that it was like a very quiet aura, like a lot of people pretty much wasn't in a festivity mood. They like really didn't even give a care, like when I went out for the 40, everything was pretty much laid back and calm, like it was just like the quiet before the storm. So we already know that, judgment is constantly is going to increase. It's going to be very massive, you know what I'm saying? So we already know that the Lord has already had numbered this place, it has a expiration date. So let's read this in the NLT. It said, finishing is better than starting. Patient is better than pride. So the one that is patient, the one that's constantly suffering and persevering, is the elect, the true believers of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. The Lord said that the same that endure, the same shall be saved, which in fact is the elect. And so we're seeing right now that we are very close to this judgment of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And also the Lord said, first my judgment will start at the house of Israel. These wicked rebels that did not want to return to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Negroes, the Latinos, the so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, the so-called Native Indian. It's time to return to your true power because the door of repenting is closed. So it's better the end of a thing. So we got the end of this thing, man. We constantly rejoice. So let's get a little bit more on that. Let's go here. He's seeing that his days are determined. So that's why this man is constantly moving in warp speed. Also, we've been hearing that, let's go here to Job chapter 14 and verse 5. So we've been hearing, that it could be a possible they could be announcing in a couple of months these digital IDs. We already know in several other countries, around the world, and also, we've seen what's going on in Canada also. So we know basically these things are coming to America very quickly. You know, this man is getting ready to bring forth that agenda. The devil's getting ready to come down with great wrath, and we constantly been warning you left and right, even though we sound like a broken record. But these are the time that we're living in. So we already know once our nation, our empire reached 250 years, then it's on its downfall. It's at its end. You know what I'm saying? The Lord, put us up one and set us down another. So the Lord is in perfect control. So he has, this man has bounds that he cannot pass. So let's get it right here. It says, uh, Job chapter 14 and verse 5, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bound that he cannot pass. So he has a said measure, a time and a date. You know what I'm saying? When this place is going to crumble like a cookie. You know what I'm saying? The end of this nightmare. We're ready to get the hell up out of here. A lot of people, I noticed, that, I didn't see a lot of barbecue grills. I didn't see a lot of people out drinking and being merry. A lot of people is pretty much just quiet. It's like a dark aura. We knowing that the Lord is getting ready to bring forth that judgment. That's where we at. We're at the beginning stage of Jacob's trouble. We're at the beginning stage of the hour of temptation. You know what I'm saying? Massive judgment, tribulation, persecution, death, and destruction. That's what we constantly warning you about. Let's get it in NLT. Say, you have decided the length of our lives. Say, you know how many months we will live. They said, and we are not given a minute longer. That's exactly right. So the Lord, you know what I'm saying? The King of Hearts is in the hand of the Lord. The Lord controls all things, whether people, believe it or not. It's no free will. We all doing the will of Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua. The Lord is in perfect control. So when the Lord said, that's it, it's it. The numbers, you know what I'm saying? The numbers do not lie. We put it like that. 250 years. So we're seeing now that, a lot of those videos were showing that, one video about 007, that the stage was coming down. Then there was another video where the guy was on like a kite, some type of kite. He was flying, he tried to land, and he fell and hit the ground. So it's just letting you know it, Babylon has what? Fallen. America has fallen. This place is finished. We constantly warning you left and right. So he's seeing that his days is determined. So you already know what he's going to resort to, his blessing, that sword, his military, his technology. So now, let's go back to the video. Don't have any news article tonight, but, we're just going to roll in the spirit tonight. Let's go back to the videos and then we'll expound on a little bit more.
Bro, I told y'all, I literally made a video yesterday saying the food is next. Now look at this, y'all. I told y'all, listen.
So in the last 24 hours, our president has announced that he's calling a global emergency on food supply. And I knew that was coming, and so did a whole lot of other people. He's doing this emergency because of the fertilizer that we can't get because of the war. And a lot of us have been telling you to prepare for a year. Over a year, actually. A lot of us started clear back in January 2025 or before because we knew his policies and his rhetoric was going to lead to this kind of situation. And here we are.
I made a video yesterday about this United States Food Reserve token that literally
Stop
came
that
out.
one right there. So we know that the sown place is going to become unsown. We're going to go back, you know what I'm saying, and get this one right quick. There's something else I want to get out of Jeremiah. Then we're going to go back to the video. Something else I want to bring out. But we know that what's the closing of the Straits of Hormuz is going to put a strain on the economy over here. It also will cause a collapse or a reset. It's a part of the plan. So we already know that you're not going to be able to get these crops the way they normally get them. So it's going to cause a food shortage. You know what I'm saying? Also fuel shortage. You know what I'm saying? It's going to cause a lot of chaos. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly what they want. You know what I'm saying? This order out of chaos. And also we know that once people start starving, don't have food, water, necessities, you know what I'm saying? The livelihood has changed. We know that all hell will break loose. So let's get this one right quick. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 22. Then I'm going to bring out one more, then we're going to go back to the video. Salaki for all the jumping around, just trying to hit these points, just rolling in the spirit. It says, 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 22, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. So one thing about it, we know right now, America still seem like it's a good case right now. Everything seems to be sowing, still look like it's going very good. But this is the quiet before the storm, and suddenly shall the full storehouses shall be found suddenly found empty. So it's talking about these ports. You know what I'm saying? These ports and these your store. So we already know things come from over there, and they come by ships and over to these ports. And we know that these ports, once these ports started drying up, and these truck drivers don't have anything to haul, then we already know that America is going to pretty much be shut down. You know, that's how we get everything in here by ships, trucks, and also railway through the train, but mostly through ship through the water. It's the hustle and bustle, merchandise exporting and importing. So a lot of these things we beginning to see, we're seeing that dark forecast that we're right upon an economic collapse. There's already rumors of that the dollar has crashed, and also he constantly covering up things left and right. We know that we have a weak leader. Also, we know that the government is very corrupt. You know what I'm saying? Make America great again. This place would never be great again. This place would never rise again. And also there will be no inhabitant left here. The Lord's going to totally destroy this place. That's why you seen in the first video, it said that, after that 250 mark is here, so the man said that this mark judgment, which in fact from who? Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. And also going into the Lord is going to break the staff of bread, your necessity, your livelihood, your support. You know what I'm saying? Your way of life is getting ready to change. So we seeing life changing events are happening right before our eyes. All sorts of things is happening left and right. Every time we turn on the TV, earthquakes in diverse places, volcanic activity. We're going to get into that in a minute. We want to jump the gun. So let's get a little bit about this judgment. So we're seeing right now that we're coming upon an economic collapse, food shortage, rolling blackout, starvation. A lot of things is coming. Let's go here. Something I want to get out of Jeremiah, and I want to get one more out of Zephaniah. Just these just random scriptures, just things that I'm just seeing through the Spirit. And once again, I hope that you will get edified. Sorry about all the jumping around, and hoping I'm not confusing anyone. See, it's here. Let's go ahead and get this right here at the top. It says here, thus said the Lord, Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 1. Thus said the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. And that destroying wind goes into those IBCM missiles, the thermonuclear exchange that is fastly approaching. We already know that Russia been talking about going nuclear, even talks of Iran saying they're going to have to get a nuclear missile also, so it's nuclear talks all over the place, but not before the implementation of the RFD microchip, which in fact is the mark of the beast. So this is where we're at. So the Lord's going to send that destroying wind because that Babylon has been against Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua for a long time. You know what I'm saying? They constantly bucking all these different abomination, all this wickedness. The Lord's getting ready to put this nightmare to an end. Also, the Lord's going to send these foreign troops in here, this invading force. That's going to be coming from China, Russia, also North Korea, in collaboration with NATO. So it's already talked that rumors that Russia is getting prepared to go into Poland, which in fact that is NATO territory. Could it be Article 5? So let's get a little bit more on this. Verse 2 says, and I will send unto Babylon fanners, or the enemies, or foreign troops that shall fan her and shall empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. So that's exactly what we beginning to see. So that's what we beginning to see there. So they be against her round about. Talking about America, so a lot of these nations right now against America and also against Israel. You know what I'm saying? They shall burn the whore. And who is that whore? America once again. You know what I'm saying? We're here. Verse 3 said, against him that bendeth, let the archers bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigadime or armory, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. So that's exactly what's getting ready to happen. America is going to be totally destroyed. 250-year mark the end of this wicked empire. You know what I'm saying? So, we could go a little bit further, but it's something else I want to get right quick. So the Lord's going to bring forth that judgment, you know what I'm saying? Like we have never seen before. Let's get this one right here. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 3. Then we're going to go back to the videos. Zephaniah chapter 3. I'm just putting it together through the Spirit. Just really didn't have anything tonight, just putting it together through the Spirit. It says, Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 5 said, the just Lord is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doeth he bring his judgment to light. Say, he faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. So, Lord, he going to bring forth that judgment, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are unaware. A lot of people right now, are not considering the signs of the time. You know what I'm saying? Just like I said, unjust knoweth no shame. That means that, you're going to get caught up. You know what I'm saying? When these things come to pass, they're going to come very quickly. You know what I'm saying? All hell could break loose at any given time. So, you know what I'm saying? Shall a trumpet be blown in the city? Shall evil be done in the city, and the Lord has not done it. So that's the Lord is calling these things to happen. So we seeing the signs of the times are here. Also, we seeing right now that the vibration is changing. World-changing events. We in that transition of power, and the Lord do is what? Bring it down that judgment each and every day. And guess what? It's gonna get worse and worse. Great tribulation is coming, man. We're here, man. So let's read it once again. In the NLT, it said, but the Lord is still there in the city, and he does no wrong. Day by day, he hands down justice, and he does not fail, but the wicked know no shame, which in fact are these heathens, also these two-thirds. You know what I'm saying? They showing no regard, but guess what? That time of trouble, they're going to be trying to call on the Lord, but it will be too late. So these things are fast approaching, man. We seeing that everything is in place. So now let's go back to the video, get a little bit more on a lot of these calamities and disasters that's happening around the world.
On the block.
Tonight, we are not looking at one disaster. We are looking at several major threats moving at the same time. A typhoon is strengthening towards U.S. Pacific territories. Venezuela's earthquake death toll just climbed again. Europe's heat disaster is now measured in thousands of deaths. And the American West has more than 600,000 tied to active fire incidents. This is Stormscapes, and these are the top 10 disaster stories happening right now. Number 10, 2 U.S. volcanoes are worth watching. Great Sikin in Alaska has slow lava erupting inside the Summit crater, and Kilauea in Hawaii is not erupting right now. But USGS says pressure is building again for another possible lava fountain episode between July 9th and July 15th. Number 9, the earthquake map is active across the Pacific. USGS lists the magnitude 6.2 near Tebelo, Indonesia, a 6.1 near Hirora, Japan, and a 5.9 south of Kuril Islands. Number 8, Mumbai, India is under a serious monsoon threat. Parts of the city picked up around 5.9 inches of rain in just 24 hours. Number 7, Tropical Storm Mazik hit Hainan, China. Flights, trains, and ferries were suspended as heavy rain and strong winds moved across the island. Number 6, severe storms are hitting the United States. SPC has an enhanced risk from eastern Nebraska into western Iowa into southern lower Michigan, with damaging winds and large hail still possible. Number 5, the U.S. heat wave is now disrupting 4th of July events. Reuters report parades, concerts, and fireworks shows have been canceled or delayed, with more than 185 million people under heat alerts. Number 4, Europe's heat disaster is getting worse. Reuters reports at least 3,700 excess deaths across France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, with France alone reporting more than 2,000 additional deaths during the hottest week. Number 3, the western U.S. wildfire emergency is still expanding. NIFC lists National Preparedness Level 4, 41 uncontained large fires, more than 605,000 acres are tied to active incidents, and over 9,300 personnel assigned. Number 2, Venezuela's twin earthquake disaster just got even deadlier. Reuters reports the death toll has climbed to 2,645 people, with more than 12,000 people injured and 15,000 people left homeless. And number one, Typhoon Bavi is now one of the most urgent storm stories in the world right now. Guam has now declared a state of emergency. The storm is strengthening, and forecasters say it could hit the Marianas as a Cat 4 or 5.
This could literally lead to World War III, and I wish I was joking. U.S. intelligence has warned Poland that Russia is planning an attack within 2026 on Warsaw, Poland. And how could that possibly lead to World War III? I'll let you know in a moment. Russia's potential plans involve missile and drone strikes on Polish infrastructure, sabotaging power stations, railways, and logistic hubs, an armed incursion across the border of Kaliningrad, a hybrid attack involving cyber attacks as well as disinformation. But why would Russia want to do this? Poland serves as the main logistics hub for Western military aid. Poland is also a major transit point for NATO forces, as well as NATO's strongest Eastern military power. Out of this information leak, it seems like Russia wants to put NATO in a lose-lose situation. Russia believes NATO is divided, and they want to see if NATO members will truly honor Article 5, which Article 5 is essentially you attack one of us, you attack all of us. And here's how it puts NATO in a lose-lose situation, and it's quite evil. If NATO doesn't respond, it gives Russia more confidence to take more of Ukraine as well as Finland. But if NATO responds and attacks Russia back, Russia believes it's in their right to escalate to nuclear. And it may be quite possible this information reached the public in the first place to be a sort of deterrent to Russia. And with the escalated war with Ukraine and Russia that is going to continue throughout July, which Russia is starting to feel very heavily economically, it's hard to say that this would ever end good. So until then, stay safe, stay prepared, and have a happy 4th.
So we already know that the 4th has passed, and a lot of things is transpired, you know. We're seeing that things are getting more and more darker. Things are constantly manifesting. We're seeing about, keep telling you about these storms, these heat waves, these volcanoes, pretty much a little bit of everything is happening, you know, at a fast pace. The end time events, you know, so we knowing that now we are in the birth pain, and they're constantly picking up. They're not slacking down for a moment. So let's go straight to the point. Let's go here to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. So it's exactly what's constantly happening, you know, even though the 4th has passed, just like it never was the 4th, because it was just like everyone they didn't give a damn. You know, people weren't trying to even celebrate. It was very quiet. I didn't even hear too many people even setting off any fireworks. You know, so this was very, very this 4th of July was very different from all the rest, because we know that we're approaching the end of an age, end of this nightmare. You know, so we're here, man. Matthew chapter 24 verse 6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So, you know, the key point is all these things, you know, these prophecies, you know, must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So we're seeing, right, you know, about the possibility that Russia could go into Poland, which in fact is NATO territory. So we're gonna see how all these things work out. Also, we still seeing the war drums are constantly beating between Iran and America, and also they had that funeral today for their fallen leader. I think he was unalive in February. They just not having the funeral. I think they just had it for the 4th. I think it was yesterday, and they had a big crowd out there. You know, so a lot of things is constantly happening. Also, they said D to America. You know, I ain't gonna say that, you know, the word, but they say, you know, they wanted, you know, to America, you know, so we already know where that's coming. Also, they're saying there's rumors of terrorist attacks. So it's rumors of wars pretty much all over the place. And also we see that these nations are constantly posturing, getting in position for what? For war. Already know about Taiwan. You know what I'm saying? It's constantly saying that China is getting prepared to invade Taiwan. So we're going to see how all this work out. You know what I'm saying? Tension is rising. War is in the air. World War III has begun. The last and final war before the great and glorious return of Yahweh Ba'ashim Abishai. Verse 7. So for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places, or in different places. So we're constantly knowing about these massive earthquake that hit Venezuela. And also, we know that the death toll is constantly rising down. So we know that Venezuela is pretty much is devastated. You know what I'm saying? The Lord brought forth the destruction. So that's judgment from the Lord. You know what I'm saying? The Lord said, I would bring forth these famine, pestilence, and also the sword. That sword goes into judgment. So that's exactly what we see in left and right. These things are constantly what? Increasing. Nothing is slowing down. There's nothing going back to same. That's what we're constantly warning about famine. You already heard, that lady in that, I think the second video whereby she was saying how, DJ Donald Trump created this problem. You know what I'm saying? That because of the Straits of Hormuz, it's still a close. It's going to cause a ripple effect right here in America. Shortage of food, shortage of water. Already know about the water crisis. All that. Now they're saying something is getting ready to happen up there in the East Coast about rolling blackouts. So they already setting the stage. You know what I'm saying? It could cause for lockdowns. You know what I'm saying? Could call for some type of mandate. So we're here. Pestilence goes into disease, outbreaks. You know what I'm saying? All sorts of sickness and death. So we're here. Verse 8. So all these are the beginning of sorrow. So we are in the birth pain. The beginning stages of all hell breaking loose. Man, we here, man. Let's get in the NLT. It said, but all this, verse 8, Matthew chapter 24 and verse 8 in the NLT said, but all this is only the first of the birth pains and more to come. So more is coming left and right. Pretty much every day, it's something is happening. Something is constantly what escalate. Tension is rising. Bible prophecy are speaking loud and clear. So the signs of the times are here, and also our salvation is at the door. So now let's go to our last and final strip. Let's go here to Second Ezra chapter 14. We close out here. It's time to get your house in order because we're seeing now that time is speeding up and we're running out of time. You know what I'm saying? The Lord, it said, what more to come? Let's kind of put a highlight some of this right quick. Let's highlight some of this. It says here, 2 Ezra chapter 14 and verse 13 said, now therefore set thy house in order, reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption. It's time to get your house in order, to get your mind right, examine yourself, you know what I'm saying? Also reprove thy people, constantly, go out, you know what I'm saying? Go out and, constantly, prophesy, warn the people, you know what I'm saying? Comfort such of them that are be in trouble and renounce corruption. So that's exactly what the watchmen are doing. We constantly, renouncing corruption. Also, we constantly comforting our people with this word, this wisdom, this knowledge, this gospel. And also we constantly examine ourselves, getting our house in order, getting our mindset right for what's to come. Which in fact is Jacob's trouble. So it's time to get your mind right. Get up your loins, cause we coming in some very turbulent time. If the Lord is not on your side, you will be totally destroyed. Verse 14 said, let go from thee mortal thoughts. Cast away the burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature. You know what I'm saying? We already know that if you of this world, you have a weak nature. Only the strong will survive, which in fact is the elect. You know what I'm saying? Let go of the mortal thoughts. You know what I'm saying? You got to think you got to be spiritual to see what's coming. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people have eyes to see, but see not. You know what I'm saying? And they have ears they hear, but they hear not. But because they're not spiritual, they still thinking these mortal thoughts, these carnally thoughts, these worldly thoughts will only lead to death. You know what I'm saying? That's why the Lord said, let go. You know what I'm saying? Put off now the weak nature. You know what I'm saying? Put on who? Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. Verse 15 says, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. How long, O Lord? Verse 16, for yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter, more to come. Verse 17 said, for look how much the world shall be weaker through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. So one thing about it, we already know that evil is constantly growing. You know what I'm saying? We're living in a very evil time. We got to redeem the time. We got to be circumspect. You know what I'm saying? Knowing what the will of the Lord is. Verse 18 said, for the time is fled far away, and leasing or lying is hard at hand. For now hasten the vision, the prophecy, the signs of the time to come, which thou hast seen. So we are very close, man. We constantly warning you left and right. These end time events, they are taking place right before our eyes. Things are constantly increasing. We're seeing it, rumors of war. We're seeing all sorts of calamities and catastrophic events like what happened down in Venezuela. You know, we're seeing about the heat wave that's happening in Europe and different parts of the world. Also, right here in our own backyard, unusually hot. You know what I'm saying? The Lord is calling these things to happen. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to tell the signs in the season because we're here, man. The end time, real time. We're living it, man. We're constantly warning you. And the men of the Lord constantly out there in the highways and byways because we know that it has an expiration date. It's called the famine of the word. So we don't know what's happening in Canada. You know, so it goes over left and right. We sound like a broken record, but hey, you have been well warned. And one thing about it, when the Lord show up, there will be no more talking. So the title of the day lesson, once again, is News and Prophecy, End Time Events. So I like to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rikak Kwadash. I like to say, Shalom, Shalom.